Hey y'all, it's me Michael, back with another video. I'm going to be reading Adult Bible Studies. I'm going to be reading Lesson 10, August 7th, God's Choice, God's First Choice. So, I'm going to be reading this page right here about David Wilkerson's, well, he wrote a book about the cross and the switchblade. So no further ado, here I go. David Wilkerson was an American evangelist, perhaps best known for his book, The Cross and the Switchblade. This book chronicles the life of Wilkerson as a young evangelist pastor who chose to minister to street gangs in crime-ridden neighborhoods in New York. Wilkerson was born in 1931 and began preaching before he was 18 years old. His search for his place in life came to an end one night while he was praying. He felt strangely drawn to get up and look through a then well-known publication called Life magazine. What he saw changed his life. Upon flipping through this magazine, Wilkerson saw an article depicting the trial of 7 teenagers who were charged with mass murder. They were young gang members caught up in the fast life of alcohol, drugs, and street violence. After reading the article and looking at the pictures associated with it, Wilkerson was filled with compassion and pity for these young men. He saw bewilderment, anguish, depression, loneliness, and hatred in their eyes, and what their hardened faces. Wilkerson began to cry over the plight of these young teens, how he could reach them for Christ. Determined to make a difference, Wilkerson set out to minister to the troubled youth of the city at the risk of being hurt or killed by gang members who were armed with switchblade knives and guns. Wilkerson lovingly and with compassion shared the love of Christ with them. He wanted these youth to know that while violence was their way to settle dispute, God has a better way that would bring wholesome to everyone involved. Wilkerson's breakthrough came when one of the notorious street gang leaders in his area was converted and later became a minister himself. Over time, others in gangs would follow and discover that Christ had come to bring hope and salvation to the least, the last, and the lost. Some people think that violence is the only way to achieve certain goals, even peace. Violence was a necessary tool at the time. King David reclaimed the land for God's people, but we struggle with such violence considering the political call to peacemaking. it is important to note that when God did allow the use of violence, it was often to disarm those who use violence against the poor and the vulnerable. King David would learn that violence is not God's first choice, and God did not honor David's violent acts. Yet David was still a man following the Lord's own heart. 1 Samuel 13:14. God did not give up on David, but God limit some of what David could do. In this lesson, we will seek to discover how God's desire for shalom goes beyond human effort to bring about the will of God. This was King David, about David Wilkerson, a pastor, and he has a book called The Cross and the Switchblade. A lesson 10, August 7th, God's First Choice. In this book, Adult Bible Studies. So there you have it, America. I just read this book. I just read this Adult Bible Studies, and I will be back with another video. God bless you, and peace be unto you. Take care of yourself and each other, and let today be yours. Team Positive.